Hi guys, it's Nancy. So what I am doing and what I do every weekend before the next upcoming week is I plan out my lessons. And so that's what I'm doing here. And I've planned out every single one of my extra subjects, like anything other than language arts and math. I go ahead and I plan out the week before. I don't really find myself having to plan out language arts and math because you just continue on into the next lesson. But I find with so many balls up in the air and so many components to the extras like geography, astronomy, exploring the world through story, CKLA, that I have to kind of put it on somewhere. So that's what I'm going to do. So go ahead, like, subscribe, and comment if you enjoy these type of videos. So let's walk through and we're going to do CKLA's lesson 2 together. And I'm going to show you how I approach it and how I plan it out. I did a more thorough flip through and kind of like an intro into this particular unit. But to be honest, all listening and learning strands flow the exact same way. So I will link that video down below. I'm still kind of getting used to all like how YouTube works. I'm sure there's an easier way of linking it. But for right now, I'm just going to link it down in the description. The one that I'm going off of right now. And so we're going to be doing lesson 2. And since I have to plan it myself for this next upcoming week, I figured we would do it together so you can see my ideas, how I approach it, and what I plan on incorporating and using. So the very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to read the entire lesson through so I know what I'm getting myself into. So I will read it, and it's not that tough of a read, to be honest. It's like maybe 5 minutes worth of my time, if that, to go ahead. But at least it gives me an idea on what I need to do. I'll get out my highlighters and stuff. I'm going to highlight, underline, and just start making some notes. So that's the very first thing I'm going to do.
Holding me back, gravity's holding me back. I want you to hold out the palm of your hand. Why don't we leave it at that? Nothing to say. Everything gets in the way. Seems you cannot be replaced, and I'm the one who will stay. Oh, in this world, it just us.
And I'm done. And that took me less than 5 minutes. I've highlighted the areas that I wanted to highlight. I've highlighted particular footnotes that I want to read. All our footnotes are really good and they're meant to keep the child actively engaged in the reading. But sometimes I don't like to incorporate all the footnotes, although it looks like I kind of did. But sometimes I don't, like over here, because I feel like if it's not necessary, I'm not going to do it, because sometimes it interrupts the flow of how the story goes when you're like stopping to ask questions. But to be honest, that's kind of like the beauty of CKLA, and why I feel my kids retain so much is because I'm constantly keeping them on their toes. But the information and how they present it is really relatable and interesting to us. Again, CKLA may not be for everybody. But one thing I wanted to point out are these vocabulary words. So you can go ahead and write them on chart paper and put them up on the wall. You can have them bring out their history notebooks and write down vocabulary words and the definition in there. Or you can just verbally discuss it out loud. And that's kind of what I've been doing lately. Sometimes I'll put it up on the wall. But for right now, we're just going to like orally discuss it. But what I find really helpful with CKLA is that they will remind you that, hey, that's a vocabulary word as you're reading it. Like right here, they have it in bold, bustling, and then they have the definition over here in the footnote. And I think that's really good. Okay, so sometimes I do A and B together. I briefly looked at B just to see, but I kind of really like keeping them separate. And what I mean by separate is on a different day. So I'll do part A one day. Later on, maybe the next day or something, I'll do part B. And I do that for a couple different reasons. One is because it provides for an awesome review. You can test how much recall that they have, test what they took out of it. Like kind of, I don't mean test, but just kind of like for you yourself as the parent, like how much did they take away from the lesson? How much did they recall and stuff? And it provides a really great opportunity for review. So again, you're putting that same exact unit, kind of like the information in front of them again, but in a different way. So I'm going to do this on a different day, and I'm going to plan for that here shortly, because I want to do part A and part B, and I actually want to get in a third lesson this week as well. But for right now, this video, I'm just going to show you 2A, and then I'll show you 2B in a separate video. Okay, so one of the things that popped out immediately is, I mean, it's really open and go. All you're doing is you're reading this information and then you are flipping the images as you read. Where you have an opportunity to further extend the activity is usually at the end of it when it tells you additional, like a tie-in language arts component. And this is why I like using the language arts version. Remember when I showed you guys in the beginning? Right over here, this is the language arts version. They do have a sister component to this that is under their history and geography strands. So it's kind of like what your learning preference is. It's going to address and cover the same things, but in a different way. And so I sometimes like to do them both, to be honest. It's not repetitive. You're not going over the same thing over and over again. They just approach it from more of a historical perspective and a geographical way versus these language arts tie-in like over here. So I feel like you're kind of getting both if you do it the other way. Okay. All right, so right here, they are having you do some synonym work. So you're going over the word source. What is a source? They use it in a sentence and you guys discuss it. And then you could do some word work in here where you're finding synonyms for the word source. So immediately what came to mind is I think it would be good for us to use our Jack and Lane brain bubble chart. It's a graphic organizer and I'll bring it out here in a second and show it to you. So that's what I'm going to have planned. And so I'm going to mark it and I'm going to write a little note on what I plan on using with this. So this is our Jack and Link dry erase board. It's known as a bubble chart or brain map. It has a lot of different names, but we're going to use this. And I thought it would be good for us to first brainstorm what comes to mind, like all the different things that come to mind when you hear the word source. So maybe you think of life, maybe water when you hear that word. And I think that this would give us a deeper understanding by the time we open up our thesaurus and actually look up synonyms. It kind of puts things into context, maybe allows us to understand this word maybe like on a deeper level. So after we brainstorm what just comes to mind period when you hear that word, then we will go and bust open the thesaurus and look up synonyms for the word. And then that's what I plan on doing for lesson 2A. And then I'm going to bring out some books. We read this one last week and it was so good. Definitely recommend this one. One Grain of Rice. It's kind of like a math story because one grain of rice doubles upon itself. Not to spoil the storyline, which I think I kind of did. But this one I highly recommend. This was a really good one. So the other ones I have left, I'm still waiting on 3, I think, from the library. So hopefully they get it in sometime before we actually finish our CKLA unit. But this is a folktale, The Emperor and the Kite. The Dragon Prince, which is a take on Beauty and the Beast. And then this one, but I'm going to save for the very end once we finish the unit. Like, look at what things that we use now today that came from China. So I think sometime this week, I'm just going to grab probably this one and try to incorporate that sometime this week loosely. But again, my favorite so far is this one. I'll let you guys know about these two though. I am done. I put it in here, lesson 2A, bubble chart book. Now I'm going to do lesson 2B. Don't be surprised if I publish this video right after 2A. But for organizational purposes, since I'm saving this to a playlist here on YouTube, I'm going to do a separate video because it just makes more sense, you know, to show it like that versus putting it together. Unless I'm doing 2A and 2B together in one day, then I'll put that in one video. But I also want to do lesson 3A and hopefully lesson 3B. So that's my goal. So what I'm going to do right after I sign off with you guys is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start planning out up to 3B. And then I will do separate videos as well for lesson 3 later on. You know, my goal is to show you guys every single lesson that I do in CKLA because it's not like this big mystery. I think CKLA has like this reputation for being confusing and it's not open and go and nobody knows how to like approach it. And it's not that bad, right guys? So I'm going to take you through all, even beyond this particular unit. Once I'm done with this unit, we're going to jump into our next lesson and so on and so on. I've been using it for going on 5 years. I really love it. My kids retain information from CKLA like no other. So if you enjoy these videos and these are of help to you, please comment, engage, and subscribe. Yeah, and happy planning, guys, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.